You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview. Fans were able to see the size difference between Till and Tyron in a recent face-off. Now, the reach is even, but Till does seem to use his distance well. When trying to get to a fighter who uses distance well but does hit hard, in MMA fighting, is explosiveness the key, to explode forward with strikes or a takedown? Are leg kicks a big equalizer? Tyron can do all those things. What would be the strategy to deal with someone the style of a Darren Till?
Yeah, I can't give away too much, but you're right. Like, all those things play a factor. It's just a matter of how you are able to combine them and make them work for you. When you're dealing with a guy like Darren Till, it's not that he's just tall and big, but he is very good. So I don't want to take that away from him. A lot of people think that just because he's big, that that's his advantage. He's a very good fighter. He moves fast very quickly. He's got a dynamite left hand. And these are all things that we've taken into account, and we understand what he's capable of. So, we're coming together with different things that we can do in order to be able to neutralize that, get to him, keep him away, things like that. So, and it just requires, knowledge of good footwork and understanding and just being able to employ those different strategies.
Now, speaking of kicks, I did an article for Sherdog on low kicks a few months back and how effective they are becoming in the sport. You see more and more fighters use it and effectively in changing fights. Perfect example being like Douglas Lima and Rory McDonald almost won that fight for Douglas. For Tyron, who can kick extremely hard and he has powerful legs, are low kicks something that would be implemented in his style in general more nowadays? Mike Brown at ATT, I don't know if it's an ATT popular technique, but would that be something also, again, not to give away strategy, but a useful technique against a guy like Till, who necessarily doesn't move in and out as quick as, say, as Thompson is willing to stand there with his leg out?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because Mike Brown is that he's a big advocate of the leg kick. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people give him credit for that, but Mike Brown is always working with guys on using a leg kick. When Pedro Munoz just fought Brett Johns, I told him he needs to go to the leg kick. He needs to use a leg kick because what happened, and when Amanda Nunes fought Miesha Tate, I said use the leg kick because what happens is that you slow up a fighter's movement down, and if they can't move, you force them to use the skills that they may not be better than you in the pocket. So using the leg kicks, it almost deflates the air out of the tires on the car. So now they have to stand there and trade with you, and it just immobilizes them. Now with Tyron, as we saw when Tyron fought Carlos Condit, his leg kicks are powerful. He spun Condit around with a leg kick. It's just something that he's never really had to go to. Now, in this fight, hopefully we don't have to get there, but if it comes, we're going to use it too. And not a lot of people know how powerful his leg kicks are until they're in there and he has to use it.
And you have a great knowledge of sport. You are a fantastic fighter. You're a great coach. And when I did the article, I talked to Ray Longo. I talked to Poli Gavoni, who you know. And why is it, in your opinion, that it's becoming so big? Because the only time I've seen anybody really defend it well was Romero versus Luke Rockhold. He defended it early, and it made Rockhold's leg bleed, and all of a sudden Rockhold had to become a boxer. Why does it seem like so many fighters aren't getting on board with how to defend that and learning the technique of defending that?
Of defending it? Well, because there's different ways to defend it, and people are throwing them differently. So when you talk about a leg kick, so when I was coming up and until about maybe a few years ago, everybody was throwing them leg kicks to the thigh.
Yep.
And when you throw a leg kick to the thigh, it's a little easier to defend because if you look at the size of the thigh muscle, it's big, so you don't even have to check that. You could just kind of stand there, flex your muscle and take a bunch of those leg kicks and counter with the right hand. But what happened was people started throwing lower kicks to the calf and the shin area, right down really low where the muscle, there's not a lot of muscle in that calf, just underneath that calf. So a lot of people don't really know how to deal with that. They try to check that, but you can't check that. And that's just a shift in the evolution of the game. I think one of the first camps to ever start doing that was MMA Masters down in Miami, throwing that really low kick, and not a lot of people understood it. So what they were doing was they were trying to treat it as if it was a thigh kick, but the reality of it is it's a kick that's a little bit lower down to the calf area, just underneath the calf area. And you can't defend it by checking that kick. I mean, it's impossible. So just not a lot of people knew how to deal with it, and they still don't, which is why it's so successful. And I'm not going to give away how to do it right here on this podcast either, because I'm still using it.
Now, I've followed Tyron's career since the beginning in Strikeforce. I mean, I think his third fight was in Strikeforce from then on to now. He's totally evolved, complete fighter. Do you guys feel his wrestling is always there to flash back to and use if he needs to? Or is Tyron more a technical sprawl and strike kind of fighter, and you believe striking with Till can be a successful path to victory against a guy like him?
Yeah, so, a lot of how we evaluate fighters is based on the perception of our senses. And, the more dominant senses take over. So when you look at a fighter like Tyron Woodley, we look at him like that's our dominant sense. We see him and we go, man, this guy is powerful. He's a big muscle-bound guy. He's got a lot of muscle. He's got a lot of power. He knocks guys out with one punch. He takes guys down, off of his first shot. He's just a bulldozer. But the reality is Tyron is extremely intelligent. He's an extremely intelligent fighter. And he's going to do what he has to do in order to win. For him, because he is so powerful, not a lot of guys can deal with that. So, that's just what he presents initially. But he's got so much more that he can do skill-wise. I mean, he grapples well. He's got tremendous combinations in hand speed. He moves well. He kicks well. So he doesn't have to rely on wrestling. It's just he has it, and he can always go to that. But people don't understand how intelligent of a fighter he is. I mean, you kind of saw it with if you think about it, you saw it with the Wonder Boy fights. Nobody was able to do Wonder Boy the way he did. You saw it with Damian Maia. He was the first guy to do Damian Maia like that, and which Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman both took his blueprint and utilized it. So, I mean, his intelligence is just paramount.
Now, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a question I always wonder with the fighter. How does a fighter develop fight IQ? Because, you're the fan and the analyst and the writer in me would think, okay, it's experience. But say, for example, not to call him anything, but a guy like Diego Sanchez, he has not changed much his entire career. Not to say he's not smart about the sport. When it comes in there to make a plan B, plan C in the fight, he kind of just goes what he always does. Yet Tyron, like you said, has a strong fight IQ, gets it in there. He can go to different plans in the cage. How does one develop that? Is that almost like a natural talent that some guys have it, some guys don't? Or can you really become a smarter fighter in the fight and go to different things if you want over time?
I believe that, developing fight IQ is a mindset. And a lot of fighters don't have that mindset because, they get into this game for different reasons. And a lot of fighters just want to bang, and a lot of fighters just want to go out, and be entertaining fighters. And if your goal is to be an entertaining fighter, you're not going to have a high fight IQ because you're just not going to do what you need to do in order to win. Also, too, is you have to have a sense, and I don't want to say laziness, but also efficiency. You have to have that personality that you want to be efficient in what you do and make things work for you as easily as possible. And a lot of fighters also don't have that. They always want to work really hard, and they want to feel like an animal who's constantly working hard. But the reality is that in order to have a fight IQ, you have to be efficient. You have to not want to take punishment, and you have to feel as though, whatever you do counts, and you want to have longevity. But I think it's just a mindset and a personality difference between guys that have a higher fight IQ and guys that don't.
Now, after shoulder surgery, are things with Tyron, will he be able to do certain techniques better now, or was the shoulder injury more recent occurrence and it really wasn't affecting him in previous fights?
Yeah, no, you know what? He's always kind of had bad shoulders. Primarily his left shoulder was kind of bad. And I think he had that one fixed a few years ago. And then he was kind of heavily reliant on that right hand. But I think this shoulder surgery is a blessing in disguise because it brought him back to his left hand. And he said, you know what? So even while he was recovering, he was training with his left hand throughout almost the entire time. So he has been working on just educating that left hand to the best of its ability. So I think it's a blessing in disguise that he had the shoulder surgery, and now he has a lot more confidence in his left hand, and he's going to be able to put combinations a little bit better together.
Now, I saw a recent story where Tyron felt Till is a tougher matchup than Colby Covington. That completely makes sense, and I get that. Yet Till beat Thompson, though I felt Till lost that fight, and Thompson was as difficult a test as any Tyron's ever faced. Do you feel Till is tougher to prepare for than, not Covington, but is he tougher than Wonderboy is, and why, if you do?
No, I don't think he's tougher to prepare for than Wonderboy. I think Wonderboy was one of the most tough opponents that we've ever had to prepare for, based on his skill set, because you just don't have that type of opponent, especially in that division. At the smaller divisions, you might there's some guys, in the lighter weights that move like Wonderboy, but not a lot of guys at that weight. So it's hard to find training partners. It's hard to really mimic that style. But Till I wouldn't say he's a tougher opponent to train for. I think he's more dangerous than Wonderboy, but I don't think he's a tougher opponent to train for.
Is there any specific sparring partners you're bringing in to mirror and mimic his style, or do you have guys on staff that you can go to an ATT or where you usually work out of that can mimic his style easily?
Well, the thing is, when Tyron's in camp, we're in full blown camp, we're like a traveling circus, and we're picking up little tricks at these different locations, and then when we bring it all together, we do it at Rufus Sport. So Rufus Sport has a lot of things in house in which all the training partners. I mean, he's got great training partners that we work with. So Ben Askren's, he doesn't train at Rufus Sport, but he's also in the Milwaukee area. So we put everything together in that area. So we never have a lack of training partners just because of all the guys at Rufus Sport.
Now, this is a Till question, but away from the technical aspects of Till, and I wanted to get your thoughts. What were your thoughts on Till's recent comments on his kids and not caring about them when he's training for this fight and focused on this fight? I mean, I was kind of blown away by it, and I can't imagine a Tyron Woodley or a Daniel Cormier saying that, and they have responsibilities of being a champion and kids of their own. Like, did you have any opinion on that weird comment?
No, I thought it was taken out of context a bit. I thought that a lot of people had a knee-jerk reaction to the comment based on the wording of it and his emotion behind it, because he was very passionate. He said it with a lot of conviction, but I don't think he meant it that way. I think he was just saying, listen, my last fight, like in his last fight against Wonderboy, when he didn't make weight, he blamed it on family issues. He said he had family issues that got in the way of him being able to make weight. And I think he's just been, he's been overwhelmed with emotion based on the position that he's in at this point. Now he's got a title shot. A lot of people are saying he doesn't deserve it. He's got, he knows he's got a lot of weight to cut. And he's just like, you know what? I need to focus on this fight, and that's all I'm focusing on. My family's going to have to take a back seat right now. But, he's a young guy, and he didn't articulate it that way. He articulated like in the way of saying, I don't care about my family, but I don't think for a moment that he meant it that way. I think he was just saying they have to take a back seat right now because I have this unique opportunity to become a world champion and do something that not a lot of people will ever have a chance to do. And this might be my only shot. So I think it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to people to kind of just automatically hate on him because of that. But I don't think he meant it the way most people thought they heard it.
All right, fair enough. Now, now on to everybody's favorite bad guy, Colby Covington. Was there a general disappointment from everyone on the team involved that Covington wasn't the next opponent? Or as a guy who was an OG with ATT, do you kind of not mind the drama that can come from the ATT connection and all that stuff? And fighting him, you don't mind missing out on that?
No, I wanted the Colby fight. I mean, there was something, and for different reasons too. Like part of it is just Colby earned it. Like I'm not necessarily like a fan of how he got there, but he earned it. Like he talked his way, but he also fought his way, and you can't take that away from Colby. Colby beat everybody in front of him, with the exception of Worley Alves, and he talked the talk and he walked the walk, so he earned it. And I thought he deserved that shot. I also thought because he built himself up that he could have continued to build himself up for a big fight against Tyron. And we were kind of hoping for that. So for that reason, I am a little disappointed. And also too, I mean, he's an American top team guy. I'm an American top team guy. At the time when Tyron won the belt, Robbie was an American top team guy. So it's almost like I wanted to keep that belt circulating amongst American top team guys, just like, just to show how dominant we are as a force. So it is a little disappointing that Colby didn't get the shot.
Now, what were your thoughts on Colby, Dan Lambert, Dana White meeting with President Trump in the Oval Office recently?
Well, I mean, it's great marketing. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's great marketing. And, that picture will circulate around forever. Mm-hmm. And when it's time for Colby to fight, he's going to use that picture for marketing. That picture is going to be out. Who knows? Trump might even get behind it. And that's going to bring an entire new fan base to watch MMA. And at the end of the day, this sport is always about how many people are watching. Mm-hmm. And if not a lot of people are watching, the sport goes away. So at the end of the day, we just need people watching the sport. I don't care who it is. We need people watching.
And then you brought up Colby. He earned his way. He also talked his way, and that's becoming a major trend in the sport now. As a guy who fought in the UFC when it was about merit and you had to really bust your ass and work 6-7 fights to really earn a title shot. What are your thoughts on this kind of trend that got more people can talk their way into bigger money fights and title shots? Are you a fan of it? Do you think it's understandable and it's all about, hey, whatever a fighter can get to maximize their money while they're in it, then do what you got to do?
I do understand that it's a spectator sport. I'm not opposed to the direction that the game is going, where guys are talking their way into these big shots. The only thing that offends me by it is that they're not very good at it, which is why I am helping some young guys to just, be able to articulate better and be able to connect better with fans and be able to present themselves better in the media and in the spotlight, and be able to get endorsements and talk their way into opportunities, because that's the direction of the sport. However, if you look at the other side, outside of the UFC, we have the PFL, which is entirely performance-based. Yeah. And I love that. So I think it gives fighters opportunities to go, you know what? I don't have to be in the UFC and talk a bunch of trash. If I'm confident in myself, I can try to get in the PFL, and based on my merit will be based on my performance. So I don't need to be able to talk trash. But again, like I said, if you're going to talk trash, I would prefer that you do it well and not sound phony.
So then, can fighters around the world, put in and submit an application for like a Dean Thomas talking masterclass that they can get some help with?
Well, now here's the thing. So, just in fact, like a few weeks ago, I've been doing improv comedy for the last 8 years. So a few weeks ago, I had a buddy of mine, one of my improv guys, come and give a seminar for a few of our young fighters. Nice. On just being able to get more comfortable in front of a stage and being able to have stage presence and project a little bit better. And this is something that me and him are probably going to invest a bit more time into and maybe develop something that we can present to people. Because if that's the route you want to go, if you want to make a living at this and that's the route you want to go, you're going to have a much better chance and be a lot more successful if you do it well.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the improv stuff, because you are a guy who's very busy doing a lot of things away from the sport, not MMA related. I mean, are you in a place now where you are maybe transitioning to be completely away from being MMA coach and just doing all that side stuff and making a career out of those things now? Or do you have fighters on the way up you have big plans for and you're not going away from us anytime soon in MMA?
No, I mean, I think that, I'm going to always be a part of MMA. I mean, MMA, I've been doing MMA since, I was 18 years old. I'll be 42 next month. So, I mean, it's in my blood. It's the only thing that I really know how to do that's really, really, really easy to me. So I'll always be a part of it. But at the same time, I don't compete in it. And then, so like the only competition that I get in my life or anything that I can do to help me grow is not MMA related. So I am going to be transitioning more into the performance arts as opposed to, the martial arts, just for my own soul and my own sake, because I don't like to put pressure on my fighters for my sake. I see a lot of coaches do that, which I think is unfair to their fighters, but a lot of coaches that didn't have a successful career, they take it out on their fighters because they didn't have a successful career. So for me, I don't want to do that. I want all my fighters to have their own career. For me, what feeds my soul are the performance arts.
Now, I'm glad you brought up also because the question came to mind. You're turning 42 and you're still a young man. Like, do you ever get the itch to come back? I mean, Hoist Gracie fought a year or two ago. Renzo Gracie at 51 just for last month. Is there ever an itch? Like, you're like, geez, these guys are doing. I'm only 42. Is there ever a desire one more time for the right kind of money, the right kind of situation to come back?
No, I've always said this. Like, I barely even train now, to be honest with you. I barely train. And the reason why I don't train because I am competitive. So if I train, then I'm going to train to compete with my fighters. Then next thing I know, I'm going to want to have the itch to come back. So I don't even train. Now, my thing is this. I've always said this. If somebody offered me, a couple million to come back, I won't train for it. I'll just fight. That's it. But nobody's ever going to do that. Nobody will ever do that. So I'm okay with that.
All right, fair enough. Now, last question. Since you are one of the best coaches in the industry, I wanted to ask a coaching question. One of the biggest fights the rest of the year is going to be Khabib versus McGregor. Both have clear ways to win and clear ways they could lose this fight. Be the hypothetical lead coach for both and give me a technical strategy on how you would have both, attack the other, and what would be the strategy you'd want to implement for each man to win that fight.
I think that fight all comes down to the first half of the first round. And even you can even specify it even to the first minute of the first round. And that's how I would treat that fight as such, because anything that happens after the first half of that first round is going to determine how that fight goes. So everything is so important for the fighter in the beginning to establish himself. So I would focus on that if I was training either guy. So for Conor's left hand is, in my opinion, one of the most important weapons in MMA today. We've seen that thing just do destruction. Whatever it touches, it goes down. The person goes down. Conor has to be able to get that left hand on Khabib. So in order for him to do that, he's going to have to get Khabib to make mistakes. So Conor's going to have to use some footwork and a lot of feints and flash and talk a lot of garbage to get Khabib to rush in, and then he's going to be able to touch him with that left hand. Now, if I was training Khabib, I would have Khabib be very patient in the beginning and not make mistakes. Don't rush in. Don't take him for granted. I think that's the biggest thing that people do with Conor is that they underestimate him. They go, oh, he just talks trash, I could beat him. And everybody said that, and everybody fell to him. So the key to beating Conor for Khabib is to be patient early. Don't fall for any tricks. Don't fall into that left hand. Then get your hands on him, because once Khabib gets his hands on him, I mean, it's pretty. It's going to be like a man and a child once he gets his hands on it. In my opinion, anyway. I mean, he's just that much of a more dominant grappler, but he can't make a mistake early.
Now, I mean, it seems like a lot of the AKA guys, like Cain Velasquez, Daniel Cormier, not so much Rocco, but especially Khabib, they push hard forward. They're very aggressive, pushing hard. Can he be patient yet still implement a style that's completely worked for him like gangbusters? Does that go against the grain of what's good for him if he has to be patient? Because I agree with you totally. He has to be, because Conor could totally knock him out.
Yeah, I think he can't. I don't think he should do that early. I mean, especially in a 5-round fight. I think he should take his time, not rush in, because part of what Conor does is he forces guys to rush in. So not only is his punch really dynamic and powerful, he hits you at the perfect time, and you're coming forward. So, I mean, just all of that impact is why guys are going down. They're running into it, and he's just hitting home runs off of these guys' faces.
Yeah. Well, see, I mean, but
Khabib has to be more patient. He can't rush in. He has to calculate the way he gets close. Because if he can do that and then get close to him like in an instant, like if he's patient, boom, get him. I got him. Then it's a wrap. It's a wrap, because Conor won't be able to hang with him. Conor may be able to make it out of a couple of rounds, may be able to make it out of the round, but he'll wear on him so heavy that Conor will be tired and won't have as much left.
You wouldn't have a fear as Khabib's coach that if he is a little patient and doesn't push hard, he wouldn't get picked apart by Conor? I feel like the longer it stands, the more it's dangerous for Khabib.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, not when I say patient, I don't mean, trading with him. He shouldn't be trading with him. I'm just saying using his footwork, using feints, and then when he sees the right opportunity, go. Okay. Get him. But he can't trade him. When I say be patient, I don't mean be on the outside boxing with him. I mean using his footwork, staying out of harm's way, not getting caught with anything. And then when Conor's going to be forced to come in at him, when Conor comes in at him, go, bam, get him.